So Jill, you just gave an amazing presentation on the power of presentation that was so authentic and candid and courageous. What do you think about your career when you think about the different aspects and facets that you've had? So what can you share with our viewers?
I think it's really important to know who you are and really to be able to play to your strengths. And for me, it was easy. I was always sort of a funny kid. I was empathetic.
Right.
I really was able to kind of grab those two parts of my traits and use them in my career. And some of it is hard. You're talking about money and personal finance. So if you don't do that with a sense of humor, it's often hard to break through. Everybody's got something different that she can rely on. It's important to find that thing, lead with that thing, and push yourself a little bit.
So presenting on the radio, presenting on CBS, the power of presentation, how do you give tips to other people? What should we consider when we're communicating?
I think that whether you have a microphone in front of you or a client in front of you, it doesn't really matter. How are you taking a complicated issue, and it can be anything in a client's life or anything financial can often be confusing. How do you bring that to somebody in a way that she can absorb it?
Right.
That's really the key, right? And we all know that. We go to the doctor, and there are some doctors will say to you, oh, let me tell you, you got this thing in your belly, we're going to take it out, that's that. And
Right.
other doctors, they rely on jargon, or they talk above you, and they're sort of snotty, and you're turned off by them. So you know what that feels like. When you're the one who has the knowledge, you've got to think about, how can I get this information to the person I want to get it to in a way she can take it in. So the most important thing is you have to know who your audience is, who is this person, answer the question that she may be afraid to ask, and be able to say, you know, Kimberly, it strikes me if I were in your situation, I'd be thinking blank. And you can fill in the blank for her if you feel like you're sensing something and she doesn't want to go there.
So, for instance, if you were talking to Mr. or Mrs. Main Street investor, you could say, if I were you, I'd be thinking about that acquisition you just heard on television. And let me tell you what that might mean for you.
Oftentimes, you know, I get asked to go on television after a big market event, either up or down. And let's say the market's crapped out. You just lost 5% in a day, and that, you know, 1,000 Dow points or something. And the first thing people want to know is, why does this happen? And you do your best to describe it, but you also say, it's a day, it's a week, it's a month.
So you don't get into market corrections.
And you could even say that. Let's say you're like, okay, the market's correcting, but how does that really impact you?
Okay.
And what is it that is going to be the important takeaway out of this whole event? I had a great piece of advice from none other than the great Susan Schlesinger, also known as my mother.
Right.
And it was in the middle of the financial crisis, and the markets are melting down. And she said to me, do me a favor. Don't say don't panic. And I said, okay, why not? She goes, because of course I'm going to panic. It's scary. And I tell you the truth, the next time I went on TV, I said, I know this is a scary time for everybody. I know it feels like you're panicking inside, but here's the thing to remember. You've got a long time before you need your money. Investing always involved risk. Maybe you didn't realize it, but this is really a moment, a month, a year. It's not your whole life, and you probably don't need to do anything right this second. So good piece of advice from Mom, right?
Your mom.
Yeah.
I think your mom did a great job, by the way. So then tell me about brand management. I mean, we're at the Global Women's Leadership Summit. We just spoke to more than 700 people. How do we manage our brand and use and leverage that, speak in very clear, concise terms, but in a way that people can understand? How does that help us with our brand when we do that effectively?
Well, I think that when you communicate effectively, whether it's with a one-on-one situation with a client, with a coworker, with a boss, with the masses, what you really are doing is you are building a professional brand that is built on expertise. You know, if you're the smartest person in the room, that's great. But if you cannot communicate that in a way that anyone else can hear, they're just going to say, that's the smart guy or gal, she works in the corner and crunches the numbers. You find that You want your brand to be something like, I'm well respected, I'm an expert, I'm a professional, I'm a good colleague, I'm easy to work with, I don't take baloney from people, I'll call you on your stuff if I need to. That there has to be a healthy respect. And for your brand, your personal brand, it's what is it that you really want to be known for? It's different for every person. I'm going to be the person who says, look, I like giving financial advice, but you know what? There's a lot of people out there who give financial advice to the masses.
Oh, I see.
So when I was writing my book, my editor said, well,
and your book is
it's called The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money. It's coming out in February. And I was talking about the things I wanted to cover in the book. And one of the things I was really strident about is I said, I'm not talking to people who are in debt up to their eyeballs. I'm talking to the people who are beyond that. And the editor said to me, hey, you know, like that may be limiting your audience. I said, that's okay. Those people have plenty of people who can help them.
That's right.
I'm going for a different set of people. I'm talking to people who I think are my friends who've always called me for advice, my colleagues who pull me aside at CBS and are freaking out about their 401ks, my radio listeners, my podcast listeners, TV viewers. And these are people who have already accumulated some wealth and have questions, and they really don't feel like they have a place to go. That's the brand, that's the corner of the world that I wanted to carve out. And you know what? It may not be as successful as a mass market New York Times best.
It's a great topic.
Yeah. So I just wanted to do the thing that felt good for me.
Well, I can tell you I will be getting your book, Jill, and I will hope that I can get you to autograph it maybe one day soon.
Yeah, maybe at the next conference.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Jill.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to the remainder of our conference.